So just to clarify what this live is about. So I called it sex for the first time because someone was asking about sex when you're losing your virginity, right? You know, I think a lot of people have like maybe like bad experiences losing their virginity. I won't say I had a bad experience, but it was very weird and it was very confusing. And I've heard this from quite a lot of people. And just in general, people can have bad experiences having sex, and people can find that they kind of like, a lot of people like rush and charge into sex, which is inevitably going to come from like an uneducated sort of place. If you don't really understand about sex, you're not in a good relationship with your emotions, you're almost bound to like rush, or you might try to repress your sexual energy. But in either case, when we're not conscious about what we're doing sexually, it's kind of inevitable to have things happening that then we're not exactly fully happy and in alignment with. So this guy had just written here, as I re-enter the world of dating again for the first time in many years, I want to do it differently this time, you know. And I speak to a lot of people that are like saying similar stuff, and I can only commend people because sex is an amazing, incredible thing. We're told to just treat it like trash or treat it like something dirty, you know, but when you actually learn to go deep into it, it's like the whole experience changes. It becomes something really, really different. And the first question, I suppose, that kind of is coming to me now is, well, how deep can you go? What is going deep all about? And my answer would be like, how deep do you want to take it? You know, you've got your average tantra workshop, you know, where you can go and you can learn to maybe breathe a bit, slow down, a little bit of sensuality, feeling love. And this is a really, really cool, like, beginning intro to what I'm going to term as conscious sexuality, because I don't really like these terms too much, like tantra. I mean, people use tantra to just describe everything, including like sexual services and God knows what. You know, most people offering tantra, whatever, they don't really understand what tantra is about. And my personal opinion is, if they called it a conscious sexuality workshop, well, that's great, you're calling something what it is. But when we start going, oh, this is tantra, and it's not got an awful lot to do with tantra, it's just about sex. I think when you reduce tantra to sex, you're really taking away like 90% of what it's about, you know. And it's the same, like, you know, I would say with Taoism has a lot more to do with sex than Tantra. Taoism has this massive, like, super detailed sexology. Like, it's just, yeah, it's so deep. It's so incredible, like tantric sexology. And that, you know, was what I found was really the opportunity to go deep, because it's left us with this ancient, like, codified scientific understanding of sexual energy and everything that it does, and how deep you can go into it. Now, of course, yeah, you can come and you can learn with me like loads and loads of Taoist exercises. You can go study with all kinds of people, going deeper and deeper into Taoism, which is incredible stuff. But just when we remember all of this, what you learn in Taoism is coded into your body. When you learn about Taoist sex, all you're doing is you're returning back into your original programming. So we're born, or we come into the world in a certain form, you know, as a spirit being, and very quickly society wants to civilize us, educate us, moralize us, upbring us, you know, all these different things. What are they doing? They're taking away our original programming, because there's some kind of a belief that what we are, our innate nature, is somehow evil, it's wrong, it's bound. If we don't control ourselves, we're bound to become some sort of menace. Now, interestingly enough, I mean, my eyes were really, really open to this. Hello, everybody who's just come. I just want to check, like, if you can hear me okay. Please put a 3 in the chat if you can hear me okay. Drop me a like or a comment or whatever, just so I know that you're here. So my eyes really, really opened about this, because for a long time I knew all this stuff about moralization and so on, that it was just kind of like toxic and a little bit like off the mark, you know. At the same time, you know, I understood and understand why do religions tell us to treat sexuality in a sacred way. I get that, definitely, you know. Well, at the same time, when they're then forbidding the sacred knowledge, what they've done is they've created this situation where people are now treating sex like junk. We get the porn industry treating sex like junk. We get Netflix, Hollywood just treating our sexuality like it's just superficial bunch of rubbish, you know. Well, people don't know what the sexuality is, so is it surprising? It's like you give, you know, you get a little baby that's like a year or 2 years old, say a 2-year-old, stick a 2-year-old like in a brand new, like gorgeous, beautiful, sparkling Mercedes and turn the ignition on, and then get really shocked and surprised that the kid like crashes the car, right? You know, you need to have the information to actually understand. And, you know, even sometimes I talk to people and people go, yeah, but I've got this problem and I know the problem is caused by my beliefs. Okay, why don't we just change the belief? Easier said than done when it's programmed into us. And what is this programming about? It's actually about traumatizing us. And guys, if you're listening now and you want to know more about this, okay, because this live is not going to go on for like a really long time. I'm holding a 3-day event, so 8th, 9th, 10th of November. I'm going to be going really into detail on this topic. I definitely advise, find the link in the group, sign up, sign up, sign up. I'm giving away some free gifts to the first 20 people who signed up and claimed the gift with me, okay? So just find the post in the group. In fact, I'll pin it to the top of the group later. I should have pinned it already. And basically, yeah, like just come and join if you want to know more, because there's only so much I can talk about today. Now, when it comes to going to have sex, now it might be the first time you ever had sex. You know, I hear some people had good experiences, some people are bad with that. I would just say it was so confusing the first time I had sex, and the feelings weren't that nice, you know. But nothing to do with my partner, just to do with my own programming, basically. There's also the first time that we have sex with a partner, right? You know, some people, they talk about sexual liberation and they're just like, oh, don't wait, come on. You're like, you know, creating morality. You should just do what you feel like doing. I mean, it's all well and good, yeah, but are we a bunch of pigs? Like if you guys came around my house and I had a banquet prepared for you, all this food I've, you know, been preparing for days, are you going to just come and just stuff your face with it, you know? Or will you sit down and eat it politely? I mean, I don't know, like, maybe there's nothing wrong with sometimes being like a pig, but, you know, when we go into the sex first time with someone and we go in like quite fast and we are literally going in with a lack of consciousness, just running along on an urge, yeah, which if you know about Taoist sexology, again, do come if you want to know more about this to my live event. The sexual energy should rise up the body into the heart, meaning that we're then able to connect from the full body. When the sexual energy is just stuck in the genitals, we're going to get this, what they call sexual frustration, lust. Some people use this term like sex addiction. I don't particularly like that term, but you get what I'm saying, where someone's just unconsciously running in. Even I've heard people talk about, oh, but a guy has so much buildup of, they say, testosterone. He needs to, you know, go and have sex with a woman and come, okay, you know, he can't wait longer than 3 days because of that. I mean, my personal opinion is, you know, I find waiting for a while, getting to know someone, making sure that you're compatible, talking about what you like, about what you don't like, you know. I mean, I'm very much a partnership, one person. For me, I don't need a whole host of lovers or one to the next, you know, without thinking about too much about it. That's my personal preference. I'll just add to that, there are Taoists that do everything, some that never have sex, some that are quite polyamorous or whatever you want to call it. But most Taoists are in the middle and they partner with one person. Reason being that we cultivate our energy to a high extent. And when you've cultivated your energy to a high extent, you're not going to want to just go around passing it from one person to the next, in all likelihood. So, you know, when people go to have sex, let's say for the first time, right? You know, you have mostly young people, maybe older people, and you're going to have sex for the first time. One thing, it does really concern me that like a lot of kids, a lot of boys will have already viewed and watched porn and have got certain opinions about what sex is supposed to be like from porn. And it's especially concerning that like young guys now are even watching like violent, you know, sexual violent scenes and maybe having sex for the first time and thinking that's a normal thing to do. I mean, if you're a parent watching this, I would just overemphasize like how important it is that we actually have like conversations with our kids about sex, you know. Leaving it to chance in this day and age is likely to cause a lot of problems. And, you know, when it comes to things like, you know, any one of us who has a son, the son can easily be accused of date rape by someone. Any one of us who has a daughter, the daughter could easily be date raped by someone. A lot of guys talk about women making up all these rape allegations. I think it's very rare a woman will say a guy raped her without that being her experience of what happened. However, the guy may have thought what he thought was completely normal because he saw it in a porn movie, or he you know, there's a lot of people, they don't want to sit down and talk before having sex, you know. Personally, my opinion, which I think I could say is backed by Tantra and Taoism, is the slower you go and the longer that you take, the more you give a chance for the whole relationship to kind of open up. You know, if you're with someone where there's a lot of sexual energy and you're transmuting and you're moving that sexual energy and you're connecting with that person, you're creating something incredibly magical between them. If you're not able to experience much of that sexual energy in your body's not able to hold it because you're so tense and so full of blocked emotions, you are likely to just go very, very fast into sex, and then after have these feelings of kind of being tired, being down, feeling drained, feeling confused, feeling emotions you are confused about because you haven't got a soul connection with the person. Now, my Tantra teacher, he says that before making physical sex, he says one needs to go through the layers of chakras, and it's not starting from the base chakra, it's starting from the crown chakra. So in other words, what he's saying is connect first spiritually from the crown chakra to crown chakra, then from third eye to third eye, which would be intellectually, then connect with your throat chakra, right, which is about speaking together, talking, and bringing the heart in. You're then bringing your emotional world in there, and you're connecting. And before you've brought that sexual energy into the situation, bearing in mind, remember that the sexual energy like amplifies everything. So it's like amplifying your, it's just amplifying your positive, and it's also amplifying your negative, which is why often people get together and then there's all this kind of arguments and funny stuff coming up that can get a little bit difficult, right? You know, so you're then connecting heart to heart, and then you want to connect from your solar plexus to the solar plexus, which means that you're working on things and you're creating together and you're creating projects together. Then comes the sacral chakra, at which point sex then comes into play. And last but not least, the base chakra, meaning you guys move in together. So this is how he described, and I definitely see through my experience like the purpose of really connecting with someone. And I speak to guys, and this actually really bothers me because I feel like nobody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about us poor women, how we poor women are victimized. And obviously it's not to take away from the fact that, you know, the world can be tough on women, but the world can be tough on men as well. So, you know, I work with men that are looking to date, you know, or maybe they're in a relationship already, one thing I hear is about, you know, being with a group of friends who are all talking about, I slept with her and I slept with her and her and her and her and 3 on the weekend. And my question then would be, do you have premature ejaculation or something? Do you need some help? Yeah. But, you know, this is very egoic, right? You know, and when we have sex from the ego, we're just not going to get an awful lot out of it, which is probably why these people are feeling like they need to just, you know, be going through all the different women, because they're not actually getting satisfaction and fulfillment out of it. So anyways, when we are when we are basically being able to have sex from the true self and really feel that connection, and we work on creating that connection before we actually make love, it makes something much more profound. So in reality, when these guys, and it can happen to women too, they're hearing about all their friends with, they call it the body count, or they used to say the notches on the bedpost in the former days, right? You know, and they're feeling like, oh, I need to sleep with this person. What's happening is they're just actually creating these, what often is like quite problematic sexual relations, which can end up causing them sexual problems. It can end up causing their body to shut down because they're not doing what they want, you know. And I was just saying recently to a male client, look, if I told you I went on a date with a guy and he wanted sex but I didn't, but I just did it anyways, wouldn't you say, Jade, what are you doing? Don't do that. But it's the same for you guys, you know, that he, you know, I said it's the same for you. You shouldn't be doing, you know. So he's then started going into dating from a more empowered place, where he's looking at what does he want, which I call embodying the energy of the king. Just like when we as ladies embody the energy of the queen and make sure that we only experience what we really want to be experiencing sexually, you know. Anyways, and I've set him up with this nice system of basically being able to connect with women 100% from a place of pure self-love and his desires, his destiny, but in a way that's going to keep the ladies like really super happy. And this is not about viewing sexual liberation as being sleeping with so many different people, but about getting the quality sex that we really want, that our heart desires. And I said to him, you know, it's not about me telling you how many people you got to sleep with, or you got to now find the love of your life and get married or whatever. Our body knows, our soul knows what's right for us. But when we're not connected with the body and we're not connected with the soul, and we go off and we start doing sexual things, which may be normal sexual things to do, but they're not really aligned with us, we're doing them from a place of trauma. We're really risking that we're going to cause ourselves trauma and sexual problems. So I'm really curious. I can't see any comments coming up, but often I don't see the comments coming up until later. If anybody has any questions about this, what I'm talking about, if you can hear me okay, can you give me a 3 in the chat, please? I just weirdly I'm not seeing anything, but this keeps happening. So I hope that nobody's asking any questions that I am missing. But anyways, you know, so when we're having sex with someone for the first time, whether it's the first time we've ever had sex or it's a new partner and it's the first time we have sex, this is a really special experience that's going to set the tone for the sex we have in the rest of the relationship. You know, waiting a little bit and just letting the energy build up and working with the energy, being conscious with the energy, being conscious with the partner, talking about our feelings and our emotions. All of these things are like really super useful and super helpful. They can really help us have better sex, better orgasms, better pleasure, because when there's emotional worlds that aren't being kind of like connected in together, it really puts a damper on the sexual relations. It actually shuts down a lot of the pleasure that we're able to experience. Now, this brings on to the next topic, right? How do we make sure that when we're in a relationship, when we're in a partnership, instead of having good sex for a year or so and it all drying out, how do we keep that good sex going forever? Not just keep it going forever, but make sure it's getting better and better and better every time. Now, I'm sure you know the word chemistry, and people tend to get together on this chemistry, and sometimes chemistry is like trauma bonding. You know, I'm not saying it has zero purpose, but when you get together on this chemistry, if you don't start bringing consciousness and start practicing alchemy together, it is going to die out, basically. And this is what's happening in the vast majority of relationships, that, you know, the sex just kind of goes downhill and downhill, and people don't really understand it and then end up in a divorce. I mean, one interesting tip, which I actually brought in my relationship, it was quite funny, because my partner was one day saying to me, like, he's not a native British speaker, so the way he speaks is very cute, you know, and he's going, do you want me to get some accessories? You know, I think a little handbag, a fluffy hat or something, but he was talking about going to a sex shop to get some accessories, you know, and I'm like, I feel quite happy and quite satisfied with you. You know, I told him I'm not feeling like I need, you know, something from a sex shop to kind of make me happy, you know. And then I'm thinking, and then I kind of thought, okay, we never officially talked about consent conversations before, because everything was very, you know, we talked about what we wanted, but we never actually talked about the concept officially of a consent conversation. So I said, introduced him to the idea of consent conversation. I said, why don't we just almost like, you know, we can almost play like it's the first time every time, and we can have like a bit of a consent conversation about what each one is feeling. And we've actually found this has really like helped to like improve our sex life. Now, bear in mind, just if you're wondering, what does improving my sex life involve? Because I practice Taoist alchemy, and with Taoist energy work, when we make love, it's like, it's not like the kind of friction-based, adrenalized sex that most people are having. What we're basically doing is we're alchemizing energy together, you know? But obviously, you know, everyone has a G-spot, and everyone has, you know, various different kinds of pleasure spots as well. But it just really opened us up to like start having like more conversations around things. And we found that the more that we were having like conversations and talking about things and talking about the feelings, and also, you know, accepting accepting our shadow sides. You know, one day we were having this conversation and we're like, yeah, I'm a bitch and you're an asshole, and do you know what? That's really cool, yeah, because this is all part of the human experience, and it's just what we are. Funny, he just messaged me. He must have known that. He must have had his ears burning, right? You know, but you get what I'm saying, right? That, you know, I find the more I've learned about sex, the more I've learned that less is more. Slower is more pleasure. Breathing more is more pleasure. Oh, that's one thing. More breathing, more pleasure. Okay, right. But, you know, people think of like big, huge dicks and big, huge dildos and vibrators and hard banging. And the thing is, this is actually shutting us down to feeling. But the thing is, people want that because there's this numbness within the body that people don't actually really know how to feel, because we're told from a young age, you know, to repress our sexuality, repress our negative emotions. Excuse me. It's all essential parts of just being able to feel and being able to be alive and being able to feel pleasure. Because if you're not in touch with what we call the bad feelings, which I don't feel like the negative is the bad, right? You know, because in a way sexual energy is a negative feeling, but negative does not mean bad. In fact, the more we're in a good relationship with our negative, the more positive and happy and, you know, I would just say confident that we become. So, now, one more thing I want to talk about before this ends. It is called the sucking reflex of the vagina. And I want to know, do you know what is the sucking reflex of the vagina? Please, if you know, give me a 1 in the chat if you know about the sucking reflex of the vagina. But I just feel like I'm not, either nobody's typed anything through this whole chat, or I'm just not getting to see what's going on. Okay, all right, well, the vagina has a reflex to suck. As crazy as this sounds, it's somewhat like if you've ever had a newborn baby and the baby just goes on the breast and just goes. Basically, the vagina has the same thing, okay? But most people don't know about it because most people are used to having the vagina rammed into, whether you're putting in a tampon, a dildo, you're having sex or whatever, what happens is because the sucking reflex isn't being used, the whole musculature of the vagina just shuts down. So that's why you're getting a lot of women with problems with their pelvic floor, incontinence, feeling like the vagina is too big, or feeling like the man's penis is too small. So the sucking reflex of the vagina, I mean, this was a big thing. Like when I started learning about it, and I started learning that also sometimes me in my brain might be saying yes, sex, and my vagina might be saying no sex. So it's like my ego is saying yes, sex. My vagina is saying no sex. When you're doing that, it's just overpowering, you know. And a big part of my journey of like sexual awakening was actually learning to respect my vagina, to say no, to listen to if my vagina is saying yes or no, and to slow everything down. Now, to me, the idea of a penis being pushed in my vagina is horrific. It's just absolutely horrific. And what happens is, you know, if a man and woman go together and they sit in yab-yum position, there's a good chance, I tell people, if you're going to do this and you don't intend to have sex, make sure you put a towel in between, because there's a good chance the penis will just migrate its way inside. And this happens, like when we slow down, when we breathe, it can start to happen. I mean, it's happened to me sometimes like super dramatically, like that my vagina just went down, grabbed and sucked inside. Yeah, that has happened to me sometimes. But it's usually more of a matter of, you know, that you're intimate together and you just allow. And I think this is also something you get tuned into, because if you're only used to something pushing into your vagina, you are not going to almost get it. It takes maybe a little bit of practice. For me, it took a fair bit of doing Taoist alchemy really to start getting it and to start activating it, and to just start just putting and just saying, hey vagina, you do it, yeah, you know, sexual organs, you do it, yeah. I'm not here with my ego trying to like have sex so that I can say tomorrow to my mates, hey, I had sex yesterday, you know, which is ego, you know. I'm here just seeing what's going to unfold and what is going to happen, you know. And it's made a huge difference for me. I will say this goes way beyond the pleasure I experience, because it's definitely an increase of pleasure when things stop pushing into the vagina. When you can use your fingers, by the way, to activate the sucking reflex of your vagina, of the vagina. In fact, that's probably the best way to do it regularly, to get it kind of going and working again. But then when you have started to get the activation going, and you start to do it with the partner, it's just, you know, he learns, hopefully, you know, as long as he's conscious, not to push, and you do. And then, you know, you can put the penis by the vagina, but you're just not pushing in anymore. You're allowing the vagina to actually take inside, you know, the energy, and take inside the penis. And the transformation, yes, okay, it activates the tissues inside the vagina. You have way more pleasure inside the vagina. I think a lot of women aren't having internal orgasms. There's a bunch of reasons to this. And by the way, if you're a woman watching who's not having internal orgasms, you want to have more of an understanding about this, I have a resource I'd like to give to you. Maybe drop me a DM, or you can put a purple heart here in the comments. Same if you're a guy that wants to know about this. Just put me a purple heart in the comments, and I'm going to DM you and send you this resource, okay, which is explaining about how they work, and actually from a Western science point of view, as well as a Taoist and Tantric point of view, and steps that you can start taking to start activating yourself to have like internal orgasms. But yeah, like I said, it increases a lot the pleasure you feel, but it's more than that, because it actually increases your it's like so much stuff changed inside me, like in terms of my confidence, the way I stood up for myself. Just, it's hard to even describe, you know, the benefits. Just absolutely incredible. And I'm supposed to be jumping into this workshop now about Egyptian manifestation. One more thing, guys. Next weekend, I'm going to be doing like a private class about using sexual energy for abundance and manifestation. I'm going to be inviting 10 people from the group to come to join. I'll put a post about that. If you want to come, do. I think this class is going to be useful. I'm really, really looking forward to it. So I'm going to have to jump off now, but any questions, please put in the chat or do DM me. And again, if you want this resource explaining about how the vagus nerve and the pudendal nerve is involved in internal, external orgasms and how you can start activating your internal orgasms and you're a woman, just send me a message and let me know. So I hope this has been helpful and useful. And by the way, I want to be doing a 3-day event soon about intimacy and connection as well, once that the one on the 8th, which hopefully you're coming to, Ancient Orgasmic Secrets, is finished. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. And if you're watching and you want to know more, either comment in the chat or send me a DM. Bye.